That's right, you read the title correctly. I have once again beaten TAS and got myself a brand new Mega Man world record. Some of you probably remember when I did this last year by discovering a new glitch in Mega Man 2 now deemed the item Tooterp glitch, cementing a world record that literally cannot be beaten even by TAS. Which is why even a year later after that video, me and my brother are still not only the world record holders, but as far as I'm aware, the only people to have a 3.5 second run on this challenge still. But this time, things are a lot different. First of all, unlike last time, this wasn't spawned in by my brother, sadly. I didn't receive any Discord messages saying my time was beat by a single frame. Instead, I was reading the comments of a video and saw that Trappy Jenkins asks me why I don't make videos like this more often, which is a great question. So I decided to make a promise that I would get a new world record and make a video about it by Christmas this year. And this time, I decided to get the world record on Mega Man 5 Remix 1. Now, unlike the Mecha Dragon fight, this isn't just one boss fight that lasts a few seconds. This is a challenge that gives you a gold medal for finishing under 2 minutes, so it's roughly 25 times longer, which is a pretty drastic change from last time. But on my first time doing this challenge, I had a pretty casual run and I enjoyed it. You start off in Napalm Man's Tiger Room, where I had to carefully platform and dodge the tigers. Then you have Stone Man's starting room, where you can just use Super Arrow and skip everything. Next you have this cool platform room, I think it's from the Proto Man castle somewhere, followed by the first section of Crystal Man stage, which can be pretty tricky actually. My initial idea here was to just shoot these weirdos and slide through the stage as fast as possible and use the Super Arrow strat towards the end with the falling crystals. But once that's done, you have to go through this part of Gravity Man stage, which is pretty straightforward, but the annoying thing about this section is that when you're upside down, the game seems a lot more likely to eat your inputs, like when you're trying to slide or something, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, after that, we have a section of Gyro Man stage that has falling blocks for you to run through, which is simple enough. Then we have the Meteor section of Starman stage, which once again I just slid through as fast as possible, hoping to avoid the meteors, followed by Charge Man stage, where you're on top of a train. This room caused me some problems because the game slows down a lot here due to the lag and there being so much on screen, which is something to remember for later. But after Charge Man, we have the final part of the challenge being this part of Wily's castle, where you have to avoid these spikes and run on these conveyor belts. And that's the entirety of Mega Man 5 Remix 1. Seems simple enough, and at the time it was. My first run I thought was pretty solid, and I got a time of 1:47.93, which actually put me right above Colonel Fatso, who is a known Mega Man speedrunner in the community, and right above me was a hacker. If you didn't know, the PC version of Mega Man Legacy Collection is riddled with hackers, which makes it extremely difficult to find where the real world record is. So naturally, because I was right above a known speedrunner and right underneath a hacker, I thought I might have already achieved the world record. Of course, now at this point, I decided to try to convince my brother to participate for old time's sake, but he was not interested.
Hey, I got a new time in Mega Man Legacy Collection. It's really good. You should try to beat it again like last time. I don't wanna. Do it. No. Do it. It's fun. I don't want to.
But upon further research on the leaderboards, I found a few legit runs, but something felt off. For example, in the laggy Charge Man section, I saw a few people clearly perform worse than I did, but somehow they were getting faster times because their game was not lagging. I thought maybe there was some lag reduction strat I did not know about, but this was just too consistent across every single legitimate run that was higher on the leaderboard than me. Then I discovered what my problem was. I had my CPU speed in Mega Man Legacy Collection set to original in the settings, which gave me original game lag. This was a literal requirement to get the Mech Dragon skip because that skip was based around lag and a bunch of other complicated stuff, but I'm sure you've seen that video already, and if you haven't, then you should. It's probably better than this one. But I didn't even think about changing my CPU speed, and sure enough, as soon as I set it to turbo, I did one more run and got a 132, shaving 15 seconds off of my previous PB. But switching my CPU was not the only thing that saved me time, because I actually recognized Maid Layla on the leaderboards, who is a longtime subscriber of the channel, and I looked at their replay and noticed that they were doing some amazing Super Arrow strats, which I tried to incorporate into my own run. Shoutouts to Maid Layla, by the way. Being this high up on the leaderboards is super impressive, so congratulations. It just goes to show what being a Tooterp subscriber can do for your gameplay. Anyway, these Super Arrow strats were great. They made the Tiger Room much faster, along with Gyro Man's room, the Meteor room, Charge Man's train room, and even the final room. Some of these arrow placements were extremely specific and very hard to pull off, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now that my time was a lot faster though, I found the actual world record on the leaderboard, which was a 1:24:13 by DJ Hopkins, meaning I was only 6 seconds behind with my 1:32. And how hard could it possibly be to shave off 6 seconds? Well, after looking at DJ Hopkins' world record run, I realized this was going to be much harder than I initially thought. First of all, in his Tiger Room, the way he placed his super arrows were so perfect that he didn't even have to jump over or slide underneath the final tiger. In my run, I first jumped over the tiger, but then I started sliding under it to save time. But if you're able to place an arrow as accurately as this, you don't have to do either one of those and you end up saving a good amount of time. Then in the Stone Man room, I still don't fully understand the strat here. DJ Hopkins shoots 3 arrows, has the second one ricochet off of a Met and push the third one to a pixel perfect spot, allowing him to glide over every single platform, and this is just insane. My strat in this room is just shooting 2 arrows because I assumed using 3 would waste more time, but it seems like if anything, shooting 3 arrows exactly like this might be a little bit faster if you do it perfect in this specific way, but I don't know. In room 3, DJ Hopkins also went for a completely different strat, using super arrows in this room to quickly get to the top platform and finish the area. But in Crystal Man stage, I was stunned once again, not only by the hyper-specific arrow placements in the first room to avoid the ball enemies as well as bonking on the ceiling, but also having just enough weapon energy to use another arrow as a platform right before the final room. This run is starting to look a lot like a TAS, but then in Gravity Man's room, I noticed 2 very small mistakes. First of all, DJ Hopkins doubles back on the anti-gravity thing. I'm not sure if he was trying to double trigger it to remove the enemy on the ceiling, but I feel like this is just slower than going forward as fast as possible. But also in the next room while on the ceiling, the world record run only fits in 2 slides before the final ball and chain thing spawns in, while I was consistently getting 3. This is a super slim detail and maybe it doesn't even matter, but you want to get that final ball and chain thing to spawn in as soon as possible because you have to wait on it in order to get to the next room. You would think that damage boosting here might be faster, but it turns out it's just straight up slower, so yeah, I tested it many times, it's unfortunate. But for the rest of the run, we see the same strats just done with insanely fast menuing that's going to be very challenging for me to compete with. Now, if you watched the last video I did where I got a world record, you would know that I use an Xbox One controller while playing on PC, which makes it a lot harder for me to menu. In fact, that's the entire reason that the item tutor P-skip exists. I literally mismenued on accident. But unlike the Mech Dragon fight where I get to menu 1 time and reset if I mess up, this challenge has 9 rooms and the world record uses super arrow in all but 1, meaning if I were to copy their exact strats, I'd have to menu 8 times and not miss a single time throughout the entire run, which I'm terrible at. In fact, I'll go ahead and tell you right now that like 80% of my resets while attempting to get this world record were from mismenuing. I can't even tell you how many times I accidentally clicked on beat and had to reset in the first room, or even worse, was on a great pace and then mismenued in one of the last 3 rooms. I have never felt any dislike towards beat, but after doing over 1,000 attempts where probably over 800 were reset due to accidentally selecting beat, I started to go crazy, insane, psychotic. But I'm starting to get ahead of myself. At this point, now that I found the world record, I knew what I had to beat and I had to come up with a game plan on how to beat it by comparing some of the strats I did with the world record strats and figuring out which was the fastest method to complete each room. So let's begin our speed run theory crafting session, starting of course with the tiger room. While my strat of shooting the arrow a little bit too high and sliding under the final tiger certainly looked a lot cooler, it was slower. In fact, there are a lot of extremely small optimizations in this room that end up saving a significant amount of time. Of course, there's that new arrow placement that I have to learn that's just high enough to not stick to the last platform, but just low enough for the tiger to jump over you. But on top of that, you have to run off of the arrow as soon as possible to fall down into the next room. And looking at the world record, this is going to be almost impossible to beat. I mean, look at this. Mega Man starts running early and falls off the arrow literally the best frame possible to fall down into the hole. This is actually part of why I assumed this might be a TAS run at first, but this was actually done by a real human being. In fact, it turns out DJ Hopkins actually has a Twitch channel where they sometimes stream Mega Man content, so please go check them out. But anyway, the next part of the tiger room seems simple, but it's actually really stupid. You have to juke out this final tiger just right so he jumps over you. I'm not exactly sure how this works even after trying this 1,000 times, but it honestly feels random even though it's probably not. The only thing I know for sure is that if you get hit by this tiger, you lose a lot of time and you need to reset. The best pace to be exiting this section is right as the timer is hitting 9 seconds, maybe slightly before, but it's very hard to do that. Stone Man's room is complicated though. While we all saw those crazy strats in the world record run with the ricocheting arrow, I have no idea how to set that up. Plus, it's my understanding that the less arrows you fire, the better, right? Because that way you don't have to wait as long to start going forward. I honestly honestly don't know how true that is, but it is a lot easier for me to just shoot 2 arrows here with the second arrow aiming to be right above this part of the background here. That's my visual indicator. So I'm going to be going with my old strat. This does seem to be ever so slightly slower than the world record's time, but it's worth it for me because I have a promise to keep to Trappy Jenkins and we're on a very strict time limit, so I don't have time to learn anything super duper crazy here. Either way, at this point my time is still comparable and it's best to leave this section right as the timer hits 17 seconds. Though if you can manage to leave just before 17 seconds, that is a crazy pace. The platform room is where things are going to get really interesting. The world record uses super arrow here to get to the top platform very fast, but I want to pause as little as possible. So I actually timed out just doing this room normally with some tight platforming, and not only is that easier for me especially, but it seems like this is actually a faster strat than the world record. Meaning any small amount of time I lose in Stoneman section by not doing the crazy ricochet, I can gain back right here. Plus, on a good pace, I'm exiting this room with just under 22 seconds on the timer, which actually puts us a little bit faster than the world record already. But Crystal Man stage adds another issue for us. As we saw with the world record, not only do we have to make a very accurate arrow placement in the first room, but we also have to walk off the arrow with perfect timing to leave this room as fast as possible while making sure to have enough weapon energy for 2 more arrows. This is a lot harder than it looks. Even if you can get your arrow placement right and you can drop down correctly, it's not guaranteed that you'll have enough weapon energy for that second arrow to use as a platform. But after lots and lots of practice, I eventually get my arrow placements down and I was able to have enough weapon energy for 2 more arrows, but I've never been able to walk off as smoothly as the world record run without losing too much weapon energy. So while I probably won't be able to do it as perfectly, I should still lose minimal time if any from this first room, and the time I do lose is time I was already ahead by. Of course, I still have to get this second arrow to platform over these angry guys, and I still have to stand on the correct pixel in the final room because the ground is uneven, so if you don't, your super arrow makes you bonk your head, which is bad. It's an instant reset. Plus, another note here, you cannot shoot immediately in this last room because you'll just hit the weird ball guy in the head. So you have to wait just a little bit, but not too long because we are trying to go fast. But as hard as that sounds, this room is actually not as bad as it seems, and I'm able to get this more consistently than the first room of Crystal Man stage while still being on pace with the world record. But Gravity Man stage is where we have our chance. Like we saw earlier, the world record just doesn't seem to be very optimal. So if I don't horse around with the gravity section and I manage to fit all 3 slides in to spawn the last ball and chain thing as fast as possible, I should be able to save some more time over the world record. The only problem is this room loves to eat your inputs, so every slide increases the risk of a reset because if you accidentally jump, you lose way too much time. The strat for this room is to stop making excuses and execute. Gyro Man's room is pretty simple. The game plan is to shoot the super arrow as fast as possible without it being too high, because if it's just a little bit too high, you actually dodge the exit and you're stuck in another room, so that would be an instant reset. Media room is more the same. We just need to get the arrow placement right, walk off the arrow as we pass the exit, and we pray to RNGesus that a meteor does not hit us in the head, because that has happened to me on multiple world record paces and it is very frustrating. The Charge Man train is really the last difficult barrier to pass, and it's honestly evil that this is the second to last room. This arrow placement is more difficult to me than the Tiger Room or Crystal Man stage, yet it's at the end of the run, so I get the least amount of practice with it. But you have to get your arrow right on this line in the background right here. If you're just a little bit too low, this Met riding a train hits you, but if you're just a little bit too high, then you get hit by these weird flying things. You do have a couple of pixels of leeway because you're able to slide under the weird flying things without losing any time, but there's really not that much room for error. It's so easy to mess this up. Plus, at the end of the level, you need to slide off the arrow for optimal dismantling, which isn't hard, it's just something to keep in mind. There is actually a slightly easier strat in this room by arrowing at the very top of the stage, but honestly, it's still very hard and it loses time, so I figured I might as well go all in and only go for the faster strat instead. But moving on to the final room, what we have here is anything but simple. While Charge Man's train is certainly the most difficult room, this is maybe the most evil room. Since it is the final room of the run, you have one attempt to walk off the ledge and shoot an arrow mid-air without messing up. If you're too low or too late on your firing, you will hit the wall. If you're too early, you'll hit the spikes or the arrow will run off without you. Now, to be clear, this trick is easier than the last room, but it is by no means free, and messing this up at the very end of a run is just heartbreaking. But this is the strat we are going to be going for because this is by far the fastest way to beat this room, and it's really the only way to do it. So here is the final game plan. In the first room, we have to have perfect arrow placement and dismantle as fast as possible. In Stone Man's room, we're going for the 2 arrow strat with the idea to make up for lost time in the next room, where we do not pause the game and instead just do very precise platforming. platforming. This is followed by some crazy super arrow shenanigans in Crystal Man stage and a clean Gravity Man stage. If all of this goes to plan, then we should be ahead of world record pace, meaning we now have to flawlessly do Gyro Man's area, the Meteor Room, the Impossible Charge Man Train, and the final room without messing up a single time. No misinputting in the menu, getting hit by an enemy, or losing time at all. And that's really the hardest part of this challenge. Again, I am so bad at menuing that I discovered a never before seen glitch in my world record last Christmas, so all of this menuing with everything on the line is just going to make things incredibly difficult. But I mean, it's not easy to get a world record. DJ Hopkins probably also tried this challenge hundreds of times before getting a time he was satisfied with. But it's time for us to defeat DJ Hopkins once and for all, so the race against DJ Hopkins officially begins. With all the strats carefully planned out, I got to work on playing this challenge over and over again, mismenuing constantly as well as putting arrows in all the wrong places. I played this challenge every chance I got for an entire week. I even had to start joining Discord calls with my friends to maintain my sanity throughout multi-hour long sessions of playing the same few sections of gameplay over and over and over again. And I cannot stress enough how many times I mismenued. Genuinely, I think I attempted this thousands of times, and it genuinely felt like 80% of my runs were reset because I accidentally picked Beat. I hate you, Beat! But then, finally, while I was all alone doing runs in my room like a true speedrunner, it happened. First, I got a perfect Tiger room, then my Stone Man room and Platform room were about as flawless as I could ever ask for. My Crystal Man room did lose a couple of frames because of my arrow dismount, but it didn't really matter because I was still on pace for a world record. Gravity Man section was done flawlessly, no misinputs, and all 3 slides were done successfully. And at this point, I knew that if I could just pull through the rest of the run, I would finally get the world record, but I have been in this spot before, so I need to not mess up, mismenu, or do anything else stupid. Gyro Man stage came and went without a problem, but my thumbs are killing me from grinding the same challenge over and over. In the Meteor Room, I almost made a menuing mistake, but I did recover, losing just a few frames from a slow menu, but at least it's not a reset. But did I lose too much time? I have no time to even think about that because now I'm in Charge Man's train and I know the world record is on the line here. This is by far the most difficult room to complete. I've missed this countless times, so as I shoot my arrow, I realize I get the super arrow pixel perfect. And now I'm starting to get nervous. Could this finally be it after days of grinding? Or have I already lost too much time? As the doubts are going through my head, I mess up the dismount from the super arrow, clipping the ground before exiting the room and losing just another frame or two. There's no time to think about my final time of this run. We're in the last room and we just have to execute. We have one chance of getting this last super arrow strat, so I menu to my super arrow as fast as I can. I do not accidentally select B. I go to shoot my arrow and it is shot correctly. I am able to get on the arrow before it escapes. Could this be the run? Could this be the world record? Yes, I've done it. This is officially the new world record. Trappy Jenkins can enjoy a new video without a troll ending, which is what I was going to do if I did not get the world record. My thumbs can finally take a much needed break, and unlike last time, I do not have to worry about my brother stealing my world record like a bum. Though it is disappointing he did not participate in this challenge though, so let's pretend that he did tie my world record just like last time and give him a little bit of a present.
Hey, I got you a present for tying my world record on Mega Man Legacy Collection.
I didn't even do anything.
Just take your present. Take your present.
What? I don't even like this game.
Just open it.
Jokes aside, while this was a very fun run to do, it was incredibly taxing on my hands just due to all the menuing. Seriously, you can't just menu normally. Look at these fast menus. You have to do that in pretty much every room. I mean, no wonder I was mismenuing so much. I do think this run can be improved upon though for anyone who wants to attempt to beat it. My menuing was slow in the Meteor Room, I lost a couple of frames in Charge Man's room, and I'm sure my Crystal Man and Stone Man room could have been a little bit faster too. My final world record time is a 1:23.88, the first 1:23 ever on this challenge, beating the previous world record by a full quarter second. Speaking of the previous world record, I think I should give a shout out to DJ Hopkins because their time was incredible. Before I started playing, second place was a 1:26, and them having a 1:24 is insane. I've never watched their content, but they do have a Twitch channel, so go follow them and give them some support, because if this was just an easy world record to grab, there would be no video here. And maybe while you're over on DJ Hopkins' Twitch channel, you could mention that I beat their record, and maybe we could get a back and forth going on, but I don't know. At least that way someone would try to snipe my record and we could get a back and forth going, since my lazy bum brother didn't want to do it. But again, this record can be improved upon. A 1:22 might be possible, but you would have to be pretty much perfect to get it. Even if someone tasked this out somehow, I would be surprised to see a 1:21, but who knows? Maybe there's a strat I'm missing, and maybe TAS can save way more time menuing than I could ever imagine. Those little bits of frame saving time really do add up at the end of the day, and most of my strats were about saving literal frames, so so it makes sense. Also, real quick, I do want to mention that the super arrow is one of the reasons I love Mega Man 5. I see a lot of people claim this is one of the weaker classic Mega Man games because the special weapons are bad and the charge shot is overpowered, but I love Mega Man 5, and the super arrow is only part of the reason why, but I can make a separate video about that another day. For now, let's just enjoy the yearly Tooterp world record where we not only beat hackers, but oh wait, I said that I beat TAS in the title? Well, I mean, maybe I did. People were hacking. Isn't that good enough? And last time, I really did beat the TAS. Okay, look, just because I didn't discover a new glitch never before done by a human being or TAS does not make this world record any less impressive. Okay, maybe it does by definition, but still. I challenge all of you guys to try and beat my world record. I want to see you guys try it. We all know Tooterp subscribers are great at Mega Man. I mean, we even saw Maid Layla on the leaderboards with a very respectable time, hitting every single difficult strat without messing up a single time. So if anyone is going to take the record from me, it's gonna be one of you. Or better yet, it'll be no one. I mean, this was a very hard challenge. I know this isn't impossible to beat like last year's world record, but stop comparing the two. Comparison is the thief of joy from what I've heard, and I like Joy. She was a great character in the movie Inside Out. Anyway, enough yapping. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this silly video, and I hope you're enjoying your holidays. And while I thankfully was able to deliver on my promise to Trappy Jenkins, I technically never answered their questions, so why don't I make videos like this more often? Well, because I don't think getting 2 Mega Man world records every single week is very feasible. Once a year around Christmas, on the other hand, might be doable. Oh yeah, speaking of Christmas, I forgot to give my brother a present. Let me go do that real quick.